Hey, what's happening? This is Tim, and I just want to answer a question that I got off a friend of mine on Facebook. And the question is, has the UFC or MMA been tested in real combat? And I have to say no. And that's because if you talk about, let's start from the beginning here. If you talk about the elements of the UFC, right? Number one, the UFC is a controlled octagon environment with rules. There's a huge list of rules that people have to follow before they get into the ring. Two, people that enter into MMA schools or UFC, right, before they get into the ring with someone, they get the luxury of studying up their enemy or adversary. They study up their techniques. They know who they're going to fight, and this is a lot of elements that are thrown out the window as far as people are concerned when it comes to a real fight. Because on the streets, you don't get to study who you're going to fight. You don't get to study their techniques or anything. So to say that the UFC has been tested in anything, or any participant from MMA schools to say they've been tested in anything, is a stretch, because there's just too many elements that don't equal up to a real fight on the streets or in real combat. Another thing is, we have to remember there's a bunch of MMA schools throughout the United States, right? And only a small fraction of the people that have trained in MMA schools have made it to the UFC, which means only a small fraction of people could claim they've been tested in anything as far as a controlled octagon environment is concerned. Let's also remember the fact that most MMA schools teach a different way of they have a different formula for fighting. So if your formula for fighting has not made it to the UFC, you haven't been tested in anything. That's my answer for this question today. Has the UFC or MMA been tested in real combat? After listening to this, no.